Hey, what up? So I just wanted to sit down because there's a few things I've done with all my characters, and I think now it feels like an appropriate time to go ahead and do like a nice exploration of everything I've done to all my characters in World of Warcraft, and not just like Transmog. I know I done a video way back of Transmog, and then I did another one just to recap on a few changes or whatever. But this one's going to go a little more deeper. I feel like I'm going to cover Transmog and then other themes of the character. Um, that way I can give everyone like a nice view of like some of the things, especially an individual that might be interested in playing World of Warcraft that wasn't aware they could do in World of Warcraft or whatever like that, and give someone something to look forward to, I guess, if they would like to, maybe copy some of the characters' looks or whatever, or some of the themes, or they can make up their own themes or whatever the case may be, and yeah. So the first set that I'm gonna do is the three warriors. And you'll see here what I mean by three warriors, but yeah. I'm crazy like that. Three warriors. So, first and foremost, of course, is my main character, Puermero. I showed him off on a straight single video where I was describing how the look I got going is just to give myself a dragon themed, down to earth vibe for the upcoming expansion that's coming up, Dragonflight. So in this case, I went with a singular shoulder, some fur here and there, trying to get the leather going. Like that singular shoulder has leather on it. I got the leather belt, and stuff like that. And then I went with like a dragon themed shield, of course. But on the character creation screen, I had explained like there was another thing I did because I got this totem, but I actually got another totem on my back. But also, I figured I also show these characters off in an area that looks good. So, of course, I'm going old school with my buddy, and here I am in Thunder Bluff. Oh, Thunder Bluff, how beautiful it is! Look at Thunder Bluff. Oh, this looks so nice. Such a nice, peaceful place. And then I remember this guy's dad. But as you can see, the idea of two totems is like this guy. He's the chieftain of the Bloodhoof Torn. This is Bane Bloodhoof.
How may I aid you?
As you can see, he's got two totems on his back. So that was something I wanted to do. So when they had added some extra transmog into the game for the Tarn, the big totem on the left with the horns is what they gave us. And then there was something from the expansion called Legion that gave us another totems that we can kind of choose from to throw on our back. And this one came out to be the one I was able to go with because it actually went the opposite direction, opposed to the other totems went the same direction as that one, so it didn't come out right. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I got going on that guy. Like I said, I got the dragon themed shield and stuff like that. But also for those individuals who, like in my case, I have more than one character for different specs of a class of a character. So in this case, this is a warrior with a shield and a sword. I'm a tank, which the spec is called protection. Now, do I have the other setups? Yes, I do. Arms is technically my favorite melee spec. And on him, I decided I'm going to pretty much keep the same gear on as looks go, except for the weapon. I decided to go with this sword right here. Now, for certain individuals that are not aware of this sword and not aware of this game, so this sword is actually from the Legion content expansion that had came out at one point. And this is a particular style of the sword that came for the Fury warrior, not the arms warrior. So technically, a fury warrior was wielding 2 of these. But as arms go, and they changed a few things where they allowed you to just have one of them or whatever like that. Which, as you can see here, I got 1 sword, and I think it looks cool. I think it's a really nice look. I wanted something that had some gold on it to kind of go with the black and yellow of my character's theme and the guild, you know, and to go also with the war paint that I got going. So I'm a Black Tarn, which is what I had him since day 1. Like, this is the only character I had since day 1. We're talking about day 1 as in I started playing World of Warcraft in March of 2005. And I wanted to play something that, once I saw this, I was like, oh, that's like a Minotaur. And I was like, oh, they're called the Tauren. Cool. I'm going to play that. And then that's also the time I birthed the idea. I came up with the concept of my name, Puermero, which is now associated with me. Like, I am Puermero. This is my avatar in the game, but anybody that knows me, especially through the game, will understand where my name came from and why I made it, how I made it, which most individuals, when they're gonna maybe address me or whatever, they don't say my real name. They'll just say Puer for short. Like, hey, Puer. Like, hey. Like, only certain individuals, like, oh, look, there's Puermero, you know, but most people just say it for short, Puer. And to go with the dragon theme, that's the main reason I said, hey, I'm going to do this sword. Now, like I said, for an individual who wants to play a warrior, there is another spec that involves melee, and that's the Fury. Now, Fury, the concept of Fury is you're capable of having 2 weapons. So in this case, I have 2 weapons. So what I did here, I decided to go with the sword again, but on the other hand is an axe, a huge axe. I mean, it's not as long, but it's a thick axe. I mean, it's pretty thick. But that flame that's coming off the backbone of that thing with the skull on it, it's just a badass thing. And I figured I wanted to have like a nice combo because, again, with the way they did things in Legion, it was the Fury had 2 of the same thing. So that sword was a type of style that you were able to get, but you would have 2 of them. So they'll both be the same. Or if you had just that axe, and then they would both be the same. You would have 2 axes. In this case, where they tweaked Transmog, they gave everybody the capabilities of choosing which weapon you wanted on the hand, on which hand for what style and whatnot. And this is what I went with Fury on this guy. And for those, again, that want to just keep one character, I mean, if you're wanting to be a warrior, warriors are fun. I love protection the most, but you know, arms is more my style when it comes to damage. I think I like the way it's built, the way all the stuff works. Like, I have nothing against Fury, don't get me wrong. It's just I think I like arms better. But Fury, I think it's just more attractive for certain individuals. Like, certain individuals will probably get the opportunity to try Fury. They'll probably dig it, yeah. And they'll probably say, hey, I just love the idea of wielding 2 big weapons. So, yeah, this is what I got going on him for looks. Now, when it comes to the appropriate mount, I just went old school with him, and I got my black Warkodo. So this is just me being old school. I mean, this was one of the... It was like, for me as an individual, my highly sought after mount back in the day. Because when you started off, you get kind of a crappy, mount in a way. Because it's slow. It was slow. It wasn't, It gave it, like, the way they do the speed in this game is 60% speed. So whatever your walking speed is, you add 60%, and that's what the mount is doing for extra speed. And in this case, this is the higher end of ground mounts, which will give you an extra percentage, so an extra 40%, because at this point you're at 100%. So whatever your character's doing walking, or I should say running, you add another 100%, and then that's the speed you're going with the mount. Now that's what I'm doing for a ground mount right now. Just for kicks, I'm doing actually a whole different mount for flying. I'm doing what's coming up as a pre-order. I guess you can call it as a gift. If you pre-order the Dragonflight expansion, these are one of the things you can get on one of the packages. I got one of the higher end packages, so I got this mount. And for those that don't know, like, each mount has the capability of doing like a thing. So for a ground mount as basic as this one, right? If I were to do the special on this mount, it would come out just kind of silly. I mean, I'm going to show you right now. It's just this. He just waves his head, you know, looks side to side, like swinging his head. That's as basic as it goes for a ground mount. Now, for this mount, because it's so new, it's got a lot extra to it. I'm going to go ahead and back up the camera, and I'm going to show you what I mean. As you can see, that's pretty beautiful, actually. Let me just go somewhere, and first off, just look at Thunder Bluff. Look how beautiful Thunder Bluff is. This is definitely my home. Out of all the places in the World of Warcraft, this zone is called Økorr. That little hump way out in the distance with a little bit of like a charred look to it. That used to not look like that in the beginning. It looks like that ever since the Cataclysm expansion. But way over there is the starting area for a Tarn. And then you work your way towards that little village that you can see off in the distance. And then you work your way all the way to the city. And then once you're here at the major city, essentially there's stuff for specific classes in different spots. Like, if I'm not mistaken, this particular bluff that I'm looking at right there, that section there has the warrior trainer and stuff. So, like, there's particular NPCs you can go to assist you in learning your character a little bit. They kind of point out a few things here and there through that. But yeah, there's multiple quests that involve the city and the surrounding area. And then eventually you work your way towards another zone. So let me go ahead and park this guy right here and show you that that animation again, because it just looks so cool. I just can't get enough of it. Oh, it's so beautiful. Let's do it one more time. Bam. So yeah, so that's pretty much a Tarn warrior. In looks, where you're going to be at. And then for those who want to kind of understand a little more the reasons why someone could pick a particular class besides looks, there's also things like racial traits. So each race has a special thing that's specific for them. As a Tarn, we have an ability that we actually can do, and it's called War Stomp. And then War Stomp is, it takes like a little casting time, like it's a 0.5 second cast. It's a 1.5 minute, so it's a minute and a half worth of a cooldown. That's how frequently you can use it. And what it does is you can stun up to 5 enemies within 8 yards for 2 seconds. 2 seconds might not seem a lot, but when it comes to just interrupting in multiple individuals, that helps. If it is just one individual enemy that you're fighting, it helps. And it's pretty cool animation to just look at a Tarn stomp. Like, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So in this case, let me get off the mount. Let's say I'm surrounded by multiple guys, multiple targets. Oh, shut up. So It's not like the greatest animation in the world, but hey, it's one of those things where it's about the function of the ability. But then also as a Tarn, they got a thing called Brawn. Now, Brawn is a passive racial trait. So there's a lot of things in the games where you would have to click it to do it. Certain other things you don't have to click anything. It's a passive ability. It does it on its own. So Brawn is one of those things that are just there. And as a Tarn, what Brawn is critical strike damage and healing is increased by 2%. And so for those that don't know about crit, so let's say I'm going to swing for a regular move, right? And that move's going to hit someone for 1,000 points. So that I'm taking away 1,000 hit points from this enemy. And if I go for a critical, like it becomes a critical strike, which is a chance. You have a chance for it to become a critical strike. It's going to be double that. So you're going to hit somebody for 2,000 hit points. Well, in this case, since I'm a Tarn, add 2% on top of that 2,000 hit points. That's how much damage I do. So in all retrospect, if you put a Tarn next to anybody else, and let's say you got two warriors and they're both standing next to each other. One's a Tarn and one's something else. And you both have the same amount of output when it comes to your basic damage. Let's say both of us are hitting the same, we're going to take away the same amount of hit points off of the enemy. But if we're both critting, let's say we're both critting a lot, and we have a high probability of critting the target, I'm going to come out on top of the damage chart next to the other guy because I got that extra 2%. It may sound measly. I mean, 2%, some people are like, meh, it's 2%. But it goes a long way, especially if you build the character with a little more crit. Which that's kind of how I build my arms warrior. Like I try to make them hit like a Mack truck. Like I want to crit more often. But then also with being a tank, it helps because I like the idea of critting. And what it is, I generate that much more threat. And thus the enemies want to keep wanting to come after me and not my allies. So someone else could be hitting pretty good too, but if I hit pretty strong like hits, but then I do crits that with this extra 2%, I keep that threat more often probably than almost anybody else. But that's up for debate too, because there are certain classes that just have a ridiculous threat level, and that's just basically how they engineered the game for that particular character or that particular class and stuff like that. Like I believe one of the top ones that are just like a Death Knight kind of holds aggro really freaking easy. Like, damn it. Sometimes I can't believe how hard or how easy they hold it sometimes, but it's still up for debate because I have been in groups where I kind of pulled threat off of a Death Knight. So it depends. I guess it depends. Now, one of the other things as a Tarn, which I believe certain other characters have these type of traits. In this case, I got a cultivation where if you were a person that wanted to collect herbs to then make potions and stuff, for example, a Tarn automatically has 15 more points to their skill level in herbalism. So that means it's easier for you to pick the herbs in your early beginnings of herbalism, like when it comes to, because that's something you have to level up your skill in picking the herbs, whether it's a flower or something like that. And then also on top of that, you gather it a lot faster than normal. So whatever, I think it's like a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds to pick an herb. With a Tarn, it'll be probably half that. So it'll be quicker, a lot quicker. I believe certain other classes have stuff like for mining. So if you're mining a node to try to get like a particular type of metal material, they're faster on that, and it's easier for them. I think there's ones where it's the actual profession. So like I believe there's one where they do good with the jewel crafting. So like if you have gems and you're trying to create special gems to socket gear, like in this game they have gear to have sockets, and you want to put a particular gem in there. I believe there's a race that helps with having a higher probability of making those easier or something like that. So it's pretty cool when it comes to the skill of like gathering professions and then creating professions. I think there's one that's good for alchemy, which I believe is my goblin. My goblin is probably alchemy, if I'm not mistaken. So stuff like that is really cool. So for a person that wants to more or less focus on a gathering profession, like I would recommend a Tarn for herbalism. If you're going to be a person that's going to make potions and stuff, so like it's quicker and everything, especially if you combo it a certain way. I'll give you an example. Let's say you go a Tarn as a race, but you want to play the class as a druid. Well, a druid can turn into a bird. They'll have like a flight form, which I will show that later. And their flight form can go out and pick herbs while they still remain in their flight form. And since it's faster, so not only is it going to be easier, you're probably going to get a probability of getting more herbs. I think there is a probability for that. Like instead of getting 4 pieces of this herb, you might get 5. And then you're also going to get it faster. So if you're a person that you don't want to spend too much time gathering, but you want to gather these things to make particular potions, then you're going to be able to go out and do it that much faster as a druid. Because not only are you going to fly pretty fast, you're also going to get to the flower or whatever the case may be and pick it that much faster to then hit to the next one. So if you're a gathering person, there you go. Now, the other reason that it's cool to be a Tarn, though, especially for tanking, is a passive racial called endurance. Endurance is it increases your stamina by 71. It scales with your level. So the lower you are, obviously that number is going to be smaller, and then it'll just increase as you level your character. Which in this case, as a level 60, it's 71 stamina. So in this case, a Tarn can have a bigger health pool than other races throughout the game. So you're looking at, if you put the Tarn next to like a human as an example, and you both have the same gear on, the same amount of stam throughout the armor, like all the armor is producing the same numbers, still the Tarn will have that much more stam because of this racial trait, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. So for tanking purposes, it's good because there are a lot of times, like even though I got the armor and everything, you want to have a bigger health pool just for the fact of like magic damage. So there might be this one enemy, this one boss you might be fighting with your team, and he's going to do this magic spell that just hits really hard. I mean, the more hit points you got, the better you're going to endure through that battle. And that's where like I lean towards playing a Tarn for a tank, which not necessarily have to be a warrior. You could be a druid, because druids can turn into a bear. They can do a guardian and be a bear, and then they'll have a higher health pool in general because of that. And then you also have the Death Knight, which a Death Knight also produces a high health pool. Like they have other things that actually contributes to having more health. So you think about just being Tarn on top of the things that a Death Knight provides, you can have even greater health pool. So it depends on how you want to treat that. So like if you would want to go towards being a tank, this is another direction you can go, is being a Tarn. So, but that's just me being kind of biased on that one with the Tarn. But yeah, that's pretty much a Tarn warrior. I love my look. I love my tabard. I love everything. Anyways, so let's get into the next character that I have for specifics. This is old school right here, man. This right here is an armor set that was only achieved through PvP back in the day. The same goes with that weapon and the tabard. Everything was PvP. And that's probably the main thing that I care about when playing this character. When it comes to PvP, yeah, I wouldn't mind being on my main warrior in PvP, but there's times I just want to be different. And I want to be an orc warrior. Arms is the one I go to for PvP. And it's just, I mean, it's one of those things like, something about it, it just seems so cool. I mean, first off, there's not that many people out there that have the armor set, unfortunately. Not necessarily because of not being capable of maybe doing the content that you needed to do to have it, but it's more and less of people weren't there. There was a lot of people that weren't there back in the day to try to earn the ability to have the looks of the armor, because I believe what had happened is, for I can't remember when they added Transmog into the game, but what they did is they just gave someone the capability that had endured all that bullshit back in the day for PvP, and the way that was to kind of get this gear. They made it where those people had a specific type of achievement that allowed them to go to a specific NPC, and from that NPC you would purchase the replica pieces to allow you to then transmog. So it wasn't just one of those things anybody can just transmog all willy-nilly. Like, yeah, anybody nowadays could do PvP high level, get some honor, go to the old school NPC to purchase the physical armor that you would put on. But that armor didn't give you the ability to actually transmog it, which was cool. I mean, it made me happy, the idea that I had the ability to do it, because I fought tooth and nail to try to freaking get a lot of this gear back in the day, and it was a bitch. But yeah, in this case, I mean, I love that. For the horde, baby. In this guy, now, I went with a particular mount. This wolf right here. This is one of the ones you were able to get through PvP, but as an achievement. Yeah, I didn't want to go old school with the mount, because some of the mounts that are old school kind of look shitty. I'm not gonna lie. This is a more high resolution mount, better gear, like the way the armor looks on the wolf, and the wolf itself looks better. And I love the idea that it's got like the horde banner sticking out the back. This mount in particular, if anybody later on, you know, in the future ever want to play this game and they would like to have a mount like this, there's actually other mounts that are associated with PvP. Each one requires certain things to achieve to be able to purchase this mount, because these are all purchasable, but you have to go through some stuff to get them. You can worry about, I'll tell you, just Google it and it'll tell you exactly all the things you have to do. I mean, in a way, explaining it is one thing, actually going out and doing it is a whole nother. So out of all the PvP mounts, this is the one I wanted first and foremost way back. At first though, I got lucky here with this, because in the beginning, I earned this mount on a whole nother character. At that point in time, they had it where you could only use that mount on the character you earned it, which kind of sucks. And not saying I didn't use it on the other character, I did, but I would have loved to use it on, like an example, this guy. I wanted to use it on this guy. I couldn't. But later on, they kind of like, oh, by the way, we're going to tweak things. We're going to let you use that mount on other characters, which honestly, I think it should have been like that from the beginning. But I kind of understood the idea of like, inclusivity, as in, that's the character you earned it with, so that's the one that gets allowed to use the mount. So I understood, but I'm just glad they came to their senses, because this looks just fantastic. Now, when it comes to a flying mount on an armed warrior, I decided to go with this guy, which that thing looks cool. Now, one of the main reasons I'm also using it is because of the upcoming Dragonflight expansion. This is technically a dragon. It's just like a proto-dragon is what they call it. Short little stubby arms, big wings, thick legs, and a tail. In this case, though, these were the mounts, though, that you acquired as a warrior through Legion. So for those who don't know, Legion had a particular, like, setup where everybody's classes were split up, and you had a class order hall. So you had a place for warriors, you had a place for paladins, you had a place for priests, etc. And then throughout all the journeys and all the questing and then all the stuff you were dealing with your class, there was a way to earn a mount that was specific to the class. In this case, like for warriors, is this guy right here. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure about all the other classes, because I haven't actually delved into getting the mount for everybody else. I only got the warrior one. I just didn't have interest in trying to get the other ones. Maybe later. But the one cool thing I know about the one for the warrior is that, let's say I'm just playing this warrior right here, right? And I want to use that mount. That mount actually changes colors to coincide with the spec. So, for example, as arms, the dragon's red. And here shortly on the other character, like a Fury Warrior, it's a black dragon. With the armor, I think the armor color changes a little bit too. And I thought it was a pretty cool concept to give you like a different aesthetic to the same mount. Like, yeah, you earn this mount, but on each spec you have a different look. But yeah, that's what I decided to do on this guy for flying mount, is that, and then of course the wolf just looks great. Oh, I love the way that wolf looks. And I was like, I'm putting that together because that sounds awesome. Zulrezan. Now, I wish I could have the one thing that, now that I think about it, the one thing I always wanted is an apostrophe. There are characters in the game that are NPCs, right? And their name will have an apostrophe in it, especially the trolls. That's where I would have wanted an apostrophe between the two portions of the L and R. It would have been Zul apostrophe Razen. Like, that would be so cool. But they don't allow you to freaking have an apostrophe. So it still bothers me. It still makes me sad. Even with pets. So for this guy, I decided to go with a concept of the whole instead of a Zandalari, because he is like a Zandalari troll, but I wanted to make him more berserker style. And most of the troll tribes that they had was like, there was one that's called the Garabushi, I think is how you say it. And the Garabushi trolls had like a particular look, and that's this armor right here. So I went out and fought tooth and nail in a way, especially for the weapons. These particular axes look so cool. I think they're so cool. And as you can see, they got fire on it. That's actually a weapon enchantment that you can do for the game. There's only certain weapons you cannot put a weapon enchantment on it. So for those who have a weapon that already has kind of like a glow or something like that, that's something you can't put like a weapon enchantment on it. On these I could. And I went with fire for the whole idea of fury. And then yeah, since he's a troll, I went with this full getup, man. This armor looks so cool. I feel it's so cool. I love the skulls on the shoulders and stuff. Now for a mount, ground mount, I decided to go with something a little different that probably a lot of people don't use. I don't think a lot of people use it, but I like this red raptor right here. Just nice, plain Jane red raptor. And I feel like the reason why I went that direction is that most of the other raptors are low resolution. There were some of the older ones. And they do have armor, but the armor didn't fit the look of the armor on the character. So none of them just fit right. And then some of the other ones that were plain Jane raptors were okay, but it's like their colors weren't right. Something about this particular raptor, though. This came around at I want to say is the Battle for Azeroth expansion. So the expansion before Shadowlands. They had a particular raptor that looked just like that. And when you defeat him, you can have him as a mount. So that was one of the ones I went and achieved and I got. And I thought he was a cool mount. But then, like when we're talking about warrior, here it is. The Proto Drake. Oh, that looks so cool. So as you can see, opposed to the other one was red on an arms warrior, while this one's black on a fury warrior. And like I said about the gear, like the other one had more of a metal color, red, like a silver metal, while this one has the black and gold going on, which I really wish I could just keep it black and gold because that's, you know, the theme of my guild. But yeah, that looks so cool. But that's the Fury Warrior, and that's the look I got going, and I love it.